when I ran out of space for my artwork, I had to start creating art on it because you can create the art on the cheap one. And it's a lot easier to store the work than it is to create it on walls. I have over 3,000 pieces that's already complete, and I'm paying $200 a month just for storage of those pieces. So what I didn't want to do is stop creating because I had a lack of space. So I started looking at people as my canvas. So I started painting clothes back in the 90s when most people thought that when I was painting the clothes, I was like kind of out of my mind because I'm walking around with clothes that have paint on them. Now it's the biggest thing going. And what Stanley Turrentine and George Benson and all the great legends from this community explained to me, you have to be ahead of the curve. If you're going to create a design, you have to create a design that no one's seen, and when they do start to understand what they're looking at, you have to be right there at that moment. Any delay, you lose your turn. So with guys like Stanley Turrentine in this neighborhood, George Benson, the Horn, Art Blakey, I had a lot of mentors. I had a lot of people in this community that made me who I am. What you're looking at now is my community. You're not looking at me. You're just looking at what my community changed me into being. I am in this community known as an artist, but truly my brother is the artist. My brother went to college, he has an art degree, and his college professor explained to him that no black man has ever been recognized as a visual artist. We're known for audio and other things, but visually we're not recognized like Picasso, Van Gogh. And because of that, I wanted to prove to the world that even though I'm not a taught artist, I'm self-taught, that I have a lot of expression, and expression can be defined in a race. Expression is all on a feeling, and it has nothing to do with color. It has everything to do with what made you who you are. Like you as a horn player, when you walked in that place and you made me feel special because I didn't know your creative genius, and once that happened, I knew that you were somebody special. So today I'm out in front of the Black Beauty. This lady here picked me up off of the front of the Crawford Grill. When the Crawford Grill went out of business, this was a lady that believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself. I used to walk around this neighborhood and pick up things from different lots. And what I was trying to do for my community was explain that even though there's no longer a building here, there's a lot of memories here. I've been in this community 50 years, and in those 50 years, I've seen a lot of changes. I was just a little kid when Dr. King was assassinated, but during that time, I've seen a lot of changes, and during those things has affected me as an artist. And during that transition, you're seeing the things that made me who I am, and my community is the one that's supposed to give the praise as well as our Creator.
And you know, it's amazing. When I came back, and this is Brother George. I'm George-A. They call me in my community Jorge, only because no one looks at the E and it's accented. And, you know, I have to accept whatever it is they're going to call me. You know, they can call me a lot of things.
So what do you prefer?
George-A.
George-A. Okay.
George-A is my birth name. And, but because I come from a family of 5 Georges. My mother in 1969 told me to spell it with a J, and with that J, she changed the pronunciation from George-A to Jorge. So that's who I am, and that's,
you know, and that's really beautiful. Yesterday I had a chance to meet him by chance, a friend of mine, a musician, a trumpet player. He said, yeah, that's the artist that painted those beautiful pictures that we saw inside here at the Black Beauty. And he also did this design, the fashion design, and I told him that I have to have a hat like that. Yeah. Boy, oh boy, I tell you.
He got it.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate that.
He got the original, one of a kind. Now, what I do when I create my work, I don't use the conventional tools like most artists. I don't use paintbrushes. I use things that grow in this community like grapevines. I use sticks and twigs, popsicle sticks that you see on the sidewalks. Those are my tools. And when I'm creating my art, I'm like a pitcher. When he's throwing the ball to a catcher, I'm throwing my colors. I'm standing close to
to 15 to 20 feet away from my canvas when I'm creating my work. So I'm throwing the colors like a pitcher throws a ball, and he has original. So there's no two alike.
I really appreciate that, brother.
Appreciate you.
And you know, it's just such a pleasure, you know, because I just met him yesterday, and it seemed like I've been knowing him my whole life. But there were other great artists out here when I was growing up. There was a brother named Cy Maraca. He was my saxophone teacher.
Yeah, I know.
And I remember when I was like 14 years old, I think he stayed at apartments right up the street here. And I would get out of school and I would go up to Cy and he would give me lessons. And I remember one lesson I was taking from him, and I kept, hitting the wrong note. The passes kept hitting the wrong note. He stopped me 3 or 4 times. He said, "You got to get it right. You got to get it right." So I made that mistake again. So I went in his pocket, pulled out a knife, and he said, "If you do it again, I'm gonna cut you. I'm gonna cut you." So I went home and I practiced till about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I came back to the next lesson and I got it right. And when I was about 17 years old, I was playing with George and Bill Hyde trio, and we were playing at the Hurricane. And at that time, Cy became homeless and destitute, and he had been living on the street, and his clothes was tattered. But he walked in the door of the Hurricane, and he just stood in the door, and he nodded his head like this, and it was like somebody gave me a Grammy or an Emmy or $10 million in the lottery to see my teacher standing in the door and seeing him nod his head and smiling. And Cy was strange, but he had what they called elephantitis. Like his hands were like twice the size of a normal person, and bulbous nose and blood red lips. But he was one of the most beautiful people that I ever met, and to know that there are artists that's carrying on his traditions in town, it's such a pleasure. And we just want to look at some of the fashion there, and tell us what you were thinking when you made that. Boy, oh boy.
What I was thinking about when I created these pieces was showing the world how people are canvas, and with each curve, no matter what a shape a woman is, or a man, everybody have accent points, and what I wanted to do was accent those points in everyone's curves. A lot of my friends are full figure, and I do have clothing for full figure women, but what they don't have for full figure women or men is full figure mannequins. So I can only highlight the things that fit the mannequins, but I have clothes that go all the way up to size 22, but you can't find a size 22 mannequin. But it's just my way of showing the world that there's no limits to creativity. Anything and everything is a canvas. Just use your imagination. The world is right around you. Just use the world for your canvas.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And we're going to let the world know and show his art everywhere. Yeah, because he's my favorite artist there. And matter of fact, when I was growing up here, Warhol was also downtown, and we used to catch him out in East Liberty. Yeah. And so we have a tradition of great artists here. Yeah. And I think Pittsburgh is going to be great again.
Oh, yes, it is.
And Absolutely. Brother, I think I've met a lifelong.
Yes, you have.
Okay.